Here's a narrative out there that silence equals strength. That being the bigger person means swallowing your words, keeping your head down, and letting the moment pass. That if you don't react, somehow you're winning. But let's be clear, silence in the face of toxicity is not strength. It's permission. It's giving someone a signal that what they're doing is acceptable, or at least tolerated. It tells them they can continue. And they will. Toxic people feed off passivity. They count on your silence. They weaponize your discomfort. They rely on the fact that you won't speak up, because it makes their job easier. Your silence becomes their camouflage, their shield, their invitation to go deeper with their manipulation, disrespect, or control. Every time you don't say something when you know you should, you train them to keep crossing that line. This doesn't mean you have to yell. It doesn't mean you have to fight. But silence, when there should be a boundary, is the absence of that boundary. Is the absence of that boundary. It's the difference between locking your door and leaving it wide open for someone to walk through. Many people confuse silence with emotional control, but control doesn't mean silence. It means measured response. It means knowing what to say, how to say it, and when. It's looking someone in the eye and saying, "That's not okay." It's speaking truth without apology, even if your voice shakes. It's choosing your words instead of letting fear choose them for you. Or worse, letting fear erase them entirely. Strength is not passive, it's active. It's presence, awareness, voice. You can be calm and still speak. You can be collected and still defend yourself. You can be respectful and still assert your boundary. And in situations where someone is pushing, provoking, or trying to diminish you, your silence is not perceived as grace. It's seen as weakness, hesitation, a gap to be exploited. Sometimes silence is about survival, but survival mode is not where you were meant to live. If you're constantly quiet around certain people, if you walk away from interactions with your self-esteem in pieces, if you replay conversations and wish you had said more, that's not strength. That's self-betrayal. That's swallowing your truth so someone else can feel comfortable in their toxicity. We're told not to stir the pot, not to rock the boat, not to escalate. But if the boat is already sinking because someone keeps drilling holes in it, speaking up isn't escalation. It's protection. It's integrity. It's saying, "I matter. My peace matters. My truth matters." Silence does not keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. It keeps the cycle going. The longer you let someone cross the line without calling it out, the more embedded the behavior becomes. You start to normalize it. You start to adapt to it. And eventually, you start to accept it. Not because you want to, but because you think it's easier than the alternative. Silence is not strength. It's not noble. It's not peaceful. It's a slow erosion of your self-respect, masked as emotional maturity. People will treat you however you allow them to. That's not harsh. It's reality. Boundaries are not something you wait for other people to recognize or respect out of the goodness of their hearts. They are something you set, you reinforce, and you enforce. And if you don't, no one else will do it for you. Too often, people assume that others should just know better. That someone should automatically be respectful, automatically sense your discomfort, or automatically stop pushing when they've gone too far. But toxic people don't operate on that frequency. They don't stop where they should. They stop where you make them. Men. And if you haven't drawn the line, don't be surprised when they keep crossing it. Boundaries aren't something you explain away or apologize for. They're not something you adjust to keep the peace. They're not rules for other people to follow. They're standards you live by. That means you teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you tolerate, and what you make clear you won't accept. Waiting for someone else to respect a boundary you never clearly expressed is a setup for frustration. A boundary is not a demand. It's not control. It's clarity. It's saying, "This is what I will allow in my space, and this is what I won't." You don't need to justify that. You don't need to convince anyone to agree with you. You just need to follow through. Because the second you make exceptions, the second you give someone access they haven't earned, you've told them your boundaries are flexible. And once people know your boundaries are negotiable, they stop taking them seriously. Some people will test you just to see how far they can go. Not because they hate you, but because they're used to pushing limits. If you don't have a backbone, they'll use you as a doormat and call it your fault when you get upset. And if you keep making their comfort more important than your own, you're not being kind. You're being complicit. You're being complicit. It doesn't matter how many times someone crosses the line. What matters is how many times you let it happen without consequence. If someone's behavior offends you, drains you, disrespects you, and you continue to engage, hoping they'll eventually get it, you're teaching them that the cost of mistreating you is zero. And people don't change when there's no cost. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your energy, your peace, and your self-worth. You don't have to scream them. You don't have to defend them to everyone. But you do have to hold them. No one else is going to understand your limits better than you. No one else is going to enforce your standards if you don't. 4. People will meet you where you hold yourself. If you don't value your own space, your own voice, your own emotional safety, they won't either. And it's not their job to figure that out for you. We're often sold a version of power that looks like volume. The person who dominates the room. The one who yells the loudest. The one who slams doors, raises voices, or talks over others. But that's not real power. That's noise. That's insecurity in disguise. Power doesn't need to be loud because power knows its own weight. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it through presence, clarity, and control. Control is the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it to you. It's the pause before reacting, the steady tone in the face of chaos. The refusal to be dragged into drama just to validate someone else's chaos. It's restraint, not because you're weak, but because you're focused. Because your energy is too valuable to be wasted on people or situations that don't deserve it. Loud people often mistake intimidation for authority. But shouting doesn't equal strength. In fact, the need to escalate, to dominate a room with noise or aggression, usually comes from a lack of inner stability. It's an overcompensation for fear, insecurity, or the inability to truly connect. Controlled power, on the other hand, speaks softly but hits hard. It doesn't need to outtalk or overpower. It just holds its ground. Control doesn't mean being passive. It means being intentional. It means knowing when to speak, when to stay quiet, and when to walk away altogether. It means understanding that just because someone throws a punch verbally or otherwise, you don't have to swing back to prove you can. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is look someone dead in the eye and not react. Not because you're afraid, but because you know they don't get to pull you out of alignment. Power is the ability to choose your response. It's self-mastery. The kind of strength that doesn't flare up to prove a point but operates with precision. A controlled person is dangerous, not because they're reckless, but because they're deliberate. Because when they speak, they mean it. When they act, it counts. And when they move, people notice. You don't earn respect by being the loudest in the room. You earn it by showing up with consistency, with calm, and with conviction. People feel safe around someone who's composed. They trust someone who doesn't lose themselves every time the situation gets tough. That's leadership. That's real strength. The world will test you. People will try to bait you, provoke you, and question your worth. But when you own your power, you don't need to react to every challenge. You respond on your terms. You protect your peace not by retreating, but by staying grounded in your truth. You understand that being reactive is easy. Anyone can explode. But holding your ground, holding your voice, holding your energy when everything around you is trying to pull it out of you, that's control. That's authority. That's control. That's authority. Unity, that's power. At some point, someone tried to tell your story for you. Maybe they labeled you, said you were too emotional, too quiet, too aggressive, too much, or not enough. Maybe they twisted your actions, questioned your intentions, made you doubt your own reality. Toxic people are experts at doing this. They don't just attack your character. They redefine it, one subtle jab at a time. And if you don't take the pen back, they will write the whole story in their favor. Reclaiming the narrative is not about correcting every lie someone tells about you. It's about refusing to live according to the version of you they created. It's recognizing that their version serves them, not you. And if you buy into it, if you start playing that role, they win. Not because it's true, but because you handed over authorship. Toxic people love to flip the script. They act like the victim when they've hurt you. They downplay what they've done, magnify your reactions, and weaponize your emotions against you. They want you second-guessing everything. Your words, your boundaries, your memory. That confusion, that fog, it's strategic. It keeps you quiet. It keeps you compliant. And it slowly chips away at your voice. But here's the thing. They only get to control the story if you stay silent. If you let their version stand unchallenged. If you start adjusting your behavior to avoid being seen the way they framed you, you framed you. Reclaiming the narrative isn't about making them admit they were wrong. It's about no longer needing them to. It's choosing to define yourself on your terms, even if no one else agrees with you yet. People will believe what they want to believe. Let them. You don't reclaim the narrative by trying to change everyone's mind. You do it by standing in your truth so fully that their version eventually collapses under the weight of your consistency. You keep showing up. You keep speaking clearly. You stop explaining yourself to people who've already decided who you are. You stop shrinking, overcompensating, or performing to make others comfortable with your presence. Reclaiming the narrative also means refusing to be stuck in the past version of yourself that you may have outgrown. Sometimes the toxic voice is internal, the one that tells you you're still that broken person, still that failure, still that scared version of who you used to be. That voice is not truth. It's a residue of experiences you've survived. And if you don't challenge it, it will continue to shape your present. You don't owe your story to people who distort it. You owe it to yourself to live it without shame. Reclaiming the narrative is radical self-respect. It's saying, you don't get to decide who I am. You don't get to rewrite my identity to justify your behavior. It's pulling your voice back from the hands of those who misused it. It's remembering that the most dangerous lie isn't the one others tell about you. It's the one you start to believe when you stop telling your own truth. People talk about courage like it's a feeling. Like one day you wake up full of confidence, certainty, and strength. But courage doesn't feel good. It feels like tension. It feels like fear, tightness in your chest, second-guessing your words before you speak them. Courage isn't a comfortable place to live. It doesn't come wrapped in clarity or permission. It shows up when you're scared, uncertain, and would rather say nothing, but you speak anyway. We're taught to associate strength with ease. That being a strong means handling everything with grace, never breaking, never letting people see the struggle. But real courage, it's messy. It's uncomfortable. It means standing up and making decisions that might cost you people, approval, peace in the short term. It's asking yourself, what do I need to do to stay honest with myself? And then doing it, even if it turns everything upside down. There is no courage without risk. You don't need courage to do something easy. You don't need courage to please others, to blend in, to go along with what makes everyone else feel safe. You need courage when your gut says no, when your boundaries are being tested, when your silence is suffocating you. And choosing to speak, to stand firm, to walk away, to disappoint others in order to stay in alignment with yourself. That's where courage lives. That's where it's built. Courage doesn't always look powerful. Sometimes it looks like shaking hands, a dry mouth, or walking into a room you'd rather avoid. Sometimes it's saying, I'm not okay, or this isn't working, or you don't get to treat me like that. Sometimes it's ending a relationship. Sometimes it's starting over. Sometimes it's saying something that needs to be said, and knowing full well it won't be received well. Toxic people don't thrive because they're smarter or stronger. They thrive because too many people stay quiet. Too many people prioritize peace over truth. Too many people wait for the already moment to speak up until there's nothing left to protect but resentment. Courage means disrupting comfort, yours and theirs. It means being willing to hold tension, knowing it's the only path to integrity. You can't live in both truth and comfort, not when the environment you're in relies on you staying small and compliant. We avoid courageous choices because we fear the consequences, being judged, rejected, misunderstood. But the consequence of not choosing courage is something far heavier, self-abandonment. When you repeatedly choose comfort over truth, you start to lose pieces of yourself. You smile when you're hurt. You say it's fine when it isn't. You play a role that keeps others happy but leaves you empty. Over time, that starts to wear on you. It shows up in your confidence, your energy, your sense of identity. Courage is inconvenient. It's rarely applauded in real time. You might not get validation. In fact, you might get backlash. But comfort never gave anyone freedom. Comfort never gave anyone growth. And comfort never protected anyone from the cost of staying silent in the face of something that needed to be challenged. You wake up every day with a limited amount of energy. It's your most valuable resource. Not time, not money, not attention, energy. And just like money, how you spend it determines what you get in return. The problem is, most people spend it without thinking. They pour it into dead conversations, one-sided relationships, arguments that go nowhere, and situations that drain instead of build. And then they wonder why they're exhausted, resentful, or stuck. Toxic people are the quickest way to go emotionally bankrupt. They will drain you without guilt, apology, or self-awareness. They feed off reaction. They want your anger, your explanation, your defense, your energy. The more you give, the more they take, and they never give anything back. Not real accountability, not growth, not change, just more drama, more blame, more manipulation. That's not a transaction. That's theft. Your energy is not meant for constant damage control. It's not meant to fuel other people's dysfunction. You're not here to manage someone else's chaos, walk on eggshells, or constantly explain your worth to people who've already made up their minds. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't want to understand you, you make a loss. Every time you chase closure from someone who benefits from your confusion, you're investing in a story that keeps you small. Protecting your energy doesn't mean being cold or closed off. It means being smart. It means understanding that every time you engage with nonsense, you're saying no to something better. Energy is opportunity. When you waste it on the wrong people, you miss chances to connect with the right ones. You miss the clarity, the focus, and the peace that come from being intentional with what you feed. Not everyone deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your breath. Not every comment needs to be addressed. People who want to misunderstand you will do it no matter how carefully you speak. People committed to chaos will twist your silence or your words. It doesn't matter. So why play the game? Why hand over your emotional wallet to people who don't know how to spend wisely? You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your mental, emotional, or spiritual bandwidth. Being available to everyone all the time is not noble. It's reckless. Boundaries are not just about keeping others out. They're about protecting what's within. You cannot create, heal, lead, or grow if your energy is constantly being hijacked by people who only show up to take. It's not just about cutting toxic people off. It's about recognizing toxic patterns, over-explaining, over-committing, overextending yourself for people who would never do the same. It's about noticing where your energy spikes and where it crashes. Who are you after you leave certain conversations? Energized, depleted, alive, numb. That's your compass. Your body and your mind are always telling you what's worth your time and what's not. Listen, there is power in emotional minimalism, giving less to things that don't serve your purpose, your peace, or your progress. Just because someone hands you their chaos doesn't mean you have to accept the delivery. Let it sit. Let them sit with it. You have more valuable places to be.